The U.S. says talks with Iran will continue this week. Join us now, Victoria Coates. She served as Deputy National Security Advisor in the first Trump administration and is now Vice President of the Heritage Foundation's Davis Institute for National Security and Foreign Policy. Victoria, there's so many nuances to what's happening and differing opinions and reporting. I don't know, from individuals. Some that are really in mainstream media are very quick to want to believe Iran. I'm not sure where that comes from. Do you have facts about what actually occurred? Do we know who the president was referring to in terms of on the other end of the negotiations? Do we know now that it was the leader of the Iranian parliament? And did Witkoff and Jared Kushner actually have conversations over the weekend?
Well, Joe, good morning. What's clear now is that everything is quite unclear. Yes, it does seem that the head of the parliament, who's a well-known politician in Iran, he's run for president a couple of times. He was a member of the IRGC, so has some name recognition, is the interlocutor. And what's interesting about that is who it isn't. It isn't the new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. It's not the president of Iran. It's not the foreign minister of Iran, the folks that you would expect. It's this parliamentarian. So that is in and itself, an interesting development. Is this sort of a lesser known figure for the United States who's maybe a little bit less radical? So that could be interesting. He might have a little bit more credibility. But this is intensely murky. I think we probably shouldn't speculate too heavily about what might be going on, but wait for the facts to reveal themselves. Right.
And I was reading about the pushback from Iran, and I mean, just reading it is Iranian state media cited an unnamed senior security official in a post saying that there's been no negotiations. And, I'm old enough to remember Baghdad Bob. I've watched a lot of spokespersons for Iran in the over the years. And when I shouldn't be flippant about it, but if their lips are moving, they're likely lying, whether it's for negotiations, whether it's about enrichment, whether it's about how far the missiles can be sent. We saw that it was 4,000 kilometers to Diego Garcia. They said they had nothing over 2,000. I mean, they do this for a living, and it reminded me of Baghdad Bob. So why do you think so many newspapers, websites, everything else immediately would say, well, Iran says there aren't any talks? So Trump obviously just wanted to work on gasoline prices.
Well, and I think we're dating ourselves by admitting we remember Baghdad Bob from 2003. But yes, this is a very similar situation. And what it speaks to is absolute chaos in Tehran. Bear in mind, most of the senior leadership has been killed. The decision-making seems completely opaque, not necessarily rational. And one other thing I wanted to mention, Joe, is we are facing a catastrophic meltdown in the Iranian economy. And there's really nothing anyone can do about it, even if people wanted to help. They've been at zero internet now for almost over 3 weeks, or 1% internet. And so the commerce has ground to a halt. They just announced they are printing a 10 million rial note. After 2 months ago, they announced their 5 million rial note. And that 10 million rial note is worth about $7. So they are running out of zeros in Tehran. And they know it, that when the fighting stops, the second front of this war is going to be economic, and they are at a huge disadvantage.
And then you layer over the idea that the president himself may have known that possibly that he was, maybe being more positive than the facts warrant, because he may be planning something 5 days from now. There are Marines on the way. There's no reason that the United States had to rush to bomb these power plants and electrical grid immediately. That could still be coming. This could have been a diversion to set something up for the next weekend, couldn't it?
Yes, I think certainly after the Maduro operation and the launch of this war 3 weeks ago, it's more important to watch what President Trump actually does. And as you said, we've got the Tripoli Marine Strike Group about to arrive. There are elements of the 82nd Airborne about to arrive. The Gerald R. Ford, which had to go to Cyprus for some upkeep, is headed back to the region. That could be a reason that he wanted this 5-day pause on the operation against the electrical plants, not because of any sort of kindness of his heart, but rather because we needed a little bit more time to get everything in order. And if you listen to his quote then from yesterday, I mean, he pretty much lays out how we're going to do it if we do take out their electric generation capability. And if you think about that, on top of all the other economic disasters they face, a national blackout on top of everything else really will be disastrous for Iran. And it's hard to see them surviving in any kind of coherent state.
And we need to connect the dots. I've actually heard someone say it might not be great if the general population of Iran didn't have internet connectivity in case there is a popular uprising in the cards down the road. So it might not be so. We at least need to think about wiping out that capability as well, if that's what we're hoping for at some point.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, our brand as the United States is free speech. So there's a lot more we can and should be doing in terms of getting secure internet access to the Iranian people. This is something we worked on in the first Trump term. And Starlink is great and is very, very helpful. But at the same time, you need greater encryption that Starlink is capable of. You need hardware to get into the hands of the people, and so that they can communicate, they can get their story out. Right now, they're largely mute. Everyone's saying, oh, there's no popular uprising going on. Well, quite frankly, we don't know. So that's something I hope we're also working on while dismantling the odious state internet system, right, the so-called National Information Network that they imported from communist China. So hopefully that can be taken down and free internet access can be provided.
We haven't even talked about Israel and what Israel's ends could be, whether it could be different for what our end goal is, and whether they were I guess they were consulted on all the things the president talked about yesterday. Do you think they go along with that? Are they on board with ending hostilities? Perhaps in some people's view that it's too early to be ending?
I don't think they have a choice.
Well, I think that'll be the topic for conversation. And obviously, we're a sovereign nation. Israel's a sovereign nation. All the folks who say that President Trump is being dictated to by Israel obviously didn't watch when he very publicly said, hey, don't hit the gas installations anymore, publicly disagreeing with them. But at the same time, Joe, what I've heard from everyone, both Israeli and U.S. government colleagues, is that this joint operation has been unprecedented. And it's going to be one of the great stories coming out of this war is how the United States and Israel coordinated through CENTCOM down in Tampa and pulled this off jointly. It's really, really impressive.
And having the nerve to give the go-ahead to do it, and still hearing about taco. Still hearing about, oh, yeah, chicken. After watching this operation and still having that, I mean, people, the tea is already coming out of a lot of people in mainstream media in their mouth. It's already, they're starting to say it before anything happens. Even though all these facts, I don't know. You know what? We didn't talk about Carg. We didn't talk about the Strait. And I don't know what happens. Those are both important elements strategically with, as you say, the 82nd Airborne on the way. I don't know what any of it means. So I think you need to keep the TV on, right?
Every morning we wake up to something new. And just one quick point about Carg is Carg is important, obviously, for the oil export facilities there. But there's 3 other islands very strategically located sort of at the mouth of the strait. And those are claimed by UAE. They have been since the 1970s as sovereign Emirati territory. And the Iranians have been hanging on to them. So a more targeted operation might be to reclaim those islands and return them to the Emirates. And then the Emirates have a much greater strategic position going into the strait. That is a more concise operation, which would put a harm done to one of our great and good allies, and then also give us more strategic control over that waterway and diminish what the Iranians can actually do.